the fear frequency and missing 411 cases. Infrasound and the frequencies produced might be a physical mechanism for thinning the veil between dimensions or opening a doorway. Infrasound, sound waves that vibrate just below the range of human hearing, it has been dubbed the fear frequency. Exposure to infrasound has been demonstrated to affect recipients with some symptoms including fear, sorrow, depression, anxiety, nausea, chest pressure, hallucinations, and manifestations of beings of all sorts. Infrasound can cause objects to move, and some believe the body's internal organs can be affected. It's suggested that levels above 80 decibels at frequency between 0.5 to 10 hertz may start to affect the vestibular of the inner ear, thus impacting balance and causing disorientation. Infrasound is sound which extends below the range of human hearing from 20 hertz down to 0.001 hertz, and it emanates from many natural and man-made sources. Infrasound is characterized by an ability to cover long distances and get around obstacles with little dissipation. 20 hertz is generally the lowest frequency humans can detect via hearing. Psychologist Richard Wiseman of the University of Hertfordshire in the UK believes the odd sensations that people attribute to ghosts may be caused by and attributed to contact with infrasound vibrations. The scientist is comforted by the view that these phenomena are purely psychological in nature, even to the extent of ignoring evidence that they themselves have experienced, as you will soon discover. However, there's another obvious explanation for the effects of infrasound that will disturb the scientists. Infrasound and the frequency produced might be a physical mechanism for thinning the veil between dimensions or opening a doorway. In 1998, Vic Tandy and Dr. Tony Lawrence, staff at Coventry University, that's about an hour's train ride north of London, I've been there, wrote a paper called Ghosts in the Machine for the Journey of the Society for Physical Research, and they cited infrasound as the cause of apparitions seen by staff at a so-called haunted laboratory in Warwick. Now, Warwick is just north of Coventry. I've been there too. Now, several years earlier, Tandy was working late in the haunted Warwick laboratory when he saw a grey thing coming for him. I felt the hairs rise on the back of my head, he said. It seemed to be between me and the door. So the only thing I could do was turn and face it. It reappeared in a different form the next day when Tandy was doing some work on his fencing foil. The handle was clamped in a vise on a workbench, yet the blade started vibrating like mad. He wondered why the blade vibrated in one part of the room but not in another. The explanation he discovered was that infrasound was coming from an extractor fan. He said, when we finally switched it off, it was as if a huge weight was lifted. It makes me think that one of the applications of this ongoing research could be a link between infrasound and sick building syndrome. Sick building syndrome is used to describe a situation in which the occupants of a building experience acute health or comfort-related effects that seem to be linked directly to the time spent in the building. When the team measured the infrasound in the laboratory, the reading was 18.98 hertz, the exact frequency at which the human eyeball starts resonating. The sound waves made his eyeballs resonate and produce an optical illusion, believing he saw a figure that did not exist. Controlled experiments by British scientists demonstrate that infrasound produces a range of bizarre effects in people, including anxiety, extreme sorrow, chills, apparitions and hallucinations, and sleep paralysis. Sleep paralysis also happens to be a common phenomenon in geodynamic areas known to produce infrasound along the Pacific Ring of Fire, further supporting the link between infrasound and strange phenomenon. On May 31st, 2003, a group of UK researchers held a mass experiment where they exposed some 700 people to music near the edge of hearing. The experimental concert, entitled Infrasonic, took place at the Purcell Room over the course of 2 performances, each consisting of 4 musical pieces. Two of the pieces in each concert had 17 Hz tones played underneath. The presence of the tone resulted in a significant number, 22% of respondents reporting anxiety, uneasiness, extreme sorrow, nervous feelings of revulsion or fear, chills down the spine, and feelings of pressure on the chest. There are two types of infrasound: naturally forming and man made. Natural sources that can produce infrasound include storms, waterfalls, severe weather, wind reaction with structures, surf, lee waves, atmospheric stationary waves that come, most common form of mountain waves, avalanches, volcanoes, earthquakes, ocean waves, waterfalls, meteors, calving of icebergs, auroras, lightning, and upper atmospheric lightning. Animals such as whales, elephants, giraffes, Sumatran rhinoceros, alligators, tigers, and migrating birds communicate over long distances using infrasound. Some animals are sensitive to these low frequency vibrations and may appear to foresee approaching storms and earthquakes. Some buildings or natural features can act as Helmholtz resonators and create infrasound at high levels. Ancient places of worship or ceremonial burial, such as the Mai Shou Mound in Orkney, have been shown to act in this way. It's possible that any room with an open doorway window can operate like a Helmholtz resonator, similar to blowing a column of air across an empty bottle. Subsonic sound can travel long distances, pass through walls, and may be amplified in tunnel-like structures. Standard hearing protection is of little use for subsonic sound, as it often can pass straight through and may even be amplified. There have been links reported between supposedly haunted locations and the presence of infrasound, which is the reason paranormal investigators may monitor infrasound levels whenever possible. Infrasound can also be man-made. Some sources of man-made infrasound are nuclear and chemical explosions, engines, machinery, and airplanes. Infrasonic waves propagate with very little attenuation and hence are capable of propagating over great distances. Missing persons and infrasound. There's a compelling link between missing person clusters, David Paulides' missing 411 cases reports, and naturally occurring infrasound producers, namely severe weather, surf, lee waves, atmospheric stationary waves. The most common form is mountain waves. The locations where the bodies are typically found, in or near bodies of water, dried creek beds, and mountains, happen to produce infrasound naturally. Severe weather is often experienced for days directly after the person goes missing. In these areas, as many as 30 people may have been recorded as going missing on separate occasions, every case containing the same bizarre, often unexplained details. Sometimes people who have gone missing return. They remember some of what happened and what they describe as a memory of being in an alternate version of the place from which they originated. The sky and features of their location change somewhat and has a different look. Sometimes they see people around them, but the people can't see through them in turn. Strange, otherworldly creatures are said to interact with the missing. They report hearing familiar voices calling them, and some people remember being grabbed and even have marks on them from where they were forcibly pulled. The stories have a lot in common with reports that were often linked to fairy or elf abductions in earlier centuries. The missing persons seem to vanish into some kind of alternate version of time and reality, where they are often helped or communicated with by other creatures, new animals, or tiny men. Sometimes the other creatures are benevolent, sometimes they are not. Some will say it's possible that these unexplained disappearances occur because there are nexus spots around the world where the veil between dimensions is thinner. These areas may contain portals or interdimensional hotspots. Children may be more susceptible to crossing over because they are less bound by the laws of our dimension, especially very young children and disabled children. It may be alien contact or even government experiments. It's impossible to say. However, infrasound seems to be a contributing factor one must consider, and the evidence is too compelling. And this is by Patrick C. on Bended Reality. Please leave your comments, and thank you for your support. kindly support my Patreon account. The daily posts are 5 videos daily, and they are totally different from what I have on my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for your support and that you find all my content so interesting. You'll find the Patreon account details in the description box below.